A very good evening to you all and welcome to News Tonight here on UBC TV. Elizabeth Nakakoni is on sign language and I am Rukidi Edward Kiijanangoma. First though, let's have a look at our top stories. Top stories tonight. Legislators defend President Museveni's cassava overbreed remarks. Over 25 perish in Fort Portal and Mbale twin accidents. Government enters final negotiation stages of lifting the Facebook ban. And in sports, Coach Lutalo summons provisional squad of 47 women Cassava players. Hello there and welcome once again. We are glad that you have chosen UBC TV as your channel of choice, and we are coming to you live online and on air from Broadcast House here on Nile Avenue. Members of Parliament have scoffed at some Ugandans criticizing President Yoweri Museveni over his advice on adjusting lifestyles in the wake of rising commodity prices. The MPs describe as cheap politics attempts by some opposition-leaning politicians to water down guidance by the head of state on the raising prices of bread. Let's get more in this story.
These are some of the pictures that social media has been awash with since late last week. From funny shapes of Uganda's popular food crop, cassava, to people feasting on the same. This purportedly has been in response to a statement made by the head of state with regard to high prices of bread.
Because these other issues, there is war in Ukraine and Russia, there will be no bread. If there's no bread, eat muhogo. Muhogo is here. What is the problem? You know, Africans really confuse themselves. You are crying that there is no wheat. I don't eat bread myself. If there is no bread, eat muhogo. Muhogo is here.
Some Ugandans did not agree with him on this.
I respect the opinion of the president, but I also request the country to think about it twice and know that the state has a responsibility to take care of its citizens.
However, other legislators have bought the idea of adjusting on lifestyles in the wake of increasing commodity prices.
Me, I am a cassava grower. I also eat yams. You see that? But you know, in face of scarcity, people don't want to hear that.
The best way to do is to know that whatever is happening in the country, we should also use the real spirit of being Ugandans. We work within the means.
How can we cut our coat according to our sizes? And what President said that if Ugandans see bread is expensive, they could go for an alternatives like cassava. He said it in good faith.
The MPs who agree with the president say cassava as opposed to bread is not only cheap but also nutritious.
Bread with the African culture, of course, was about the remainings on the saucepan. That is bread. And if the president talked of leaving the bread, of course, this is a typical African who is telling you that why do you spend time eating the leftovers on the saucepan, and instead of you going towards fresh food like cassava.
You can go for the cheaper thing, yet it is pregnant with the value, food value. So we have a lot of food, natural food, other than going for crisps, going for chips and chicken.
In the meantime, government is on course to overcome rising commodity prices, as recently disclosed by the Prime Minister Robin Anabanja during Eid Day celebrations. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Thanks, Henry, for that report there. Parliament has tasked the Minister of Works and Transport to investigate the increasing rate of road carnage and also present a report on the implementation of speed governors. Now, this follows two fatal accidents that occurred Wednesday along Fort Portal Kampala Highway and Tirinyi Mbale Highway, respectively, claiming over 20 lives.
Over 25 people have perished in the twin accidents that occurred along Fort Portal Kampala Highway and Mbale Tirinyi Highway, respectively, in a bus accident that occurred around Sebitoli village along Fort Portal Kampala Highway. At least 20 people were confirmed dead in a bus accident involving a Link bus registration number UBA 003S. The Link bus that was heading to Kampala from Bondibujo overturned along Sebitoli village, killing 20 people instantly. According to eyewitnesses, the bus overturned due to overspeeding. Rwenzori West Police spokesperson Vincent Tresije confirmed that among the 20 people who perished in the fatal accident along Fort Portal Kampala Highway included the bus driver and students who were traveling back to school.
10 people have died, and out of these 20, 11 are male and 9 are female. And out of these numbers of 20, we still have 7 juveniles who have passed on. It is really a bad incident to lose such number of people. As police, we are investigating, and we're going to investigate the would be likely cause of the accident.
Several people who sustained minor and severe injuries were rushed to Fort Portal Referral Hospital for further management, while the bodies of the deceased were taken to Fort Portal Hospital mortuary.
So many people who needed our help, and we collaborated with the ambulances that are within the region of Kabarole, and our work was mainly to get the people who are critical and put them in ambulance and also take them to the casualty.
Along the same line, 5 people have been confirmed dead and 6 others seriously injured in a fatal accident that happened around Namatala Bridge, Mbale Highway. The accident that claimed 5 lives involved a collision of 3 vehicles that included 2 taxis of registration number UBH437K, UBJ676W, a Toyota Raum registration number U18995A, and 1 motorist.
Kati ono we taxi abada ali kuisa naja nakuba wa boda babade babiri nga basitudde emiyembe bagenda mu town kati ona be basose mu mazi we taxi nalyoka akola ki addako.
According to eyewitnesses, the accident was due to overspeeding by the taxi drivers that caused a head-on collision.
Abadde agezaako anyigiriza ono wa wakati kati ne bafuna obutakanya wakati awo ne benyigiriza jukira ababoda bali kuno jukira wobugaali musajja w'emiyembe naye.
Early this week, police warned over the rising indiscipline among motorists. Parliament has today tasked the Minister of Works to investigate the cause of increasing road carnage in the country and to present a comprehensive report on the implementation of speed governors.
Much as some accidents may be unavoidable, but the Minister of Works should come out to deliberately regulate, put the speed governors and monitor, especially the public transport.
I urge the Minister of Works and Transport to investigate the cause of the accident and also establish measures to reduce road carnage.
At least over 150 people reportedly perished in road carnage during Eid and Labor Day celebrations. Susan Naonga reporting for UBC TV.
Very sad indeed, and of course may those who have perished in today's accidents rest in eternal peace. Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, has appealed to local governments and head teachers to ensure that children leave school at 5 in the evening and report to school at 7 in the morning, because having them move in the night puts them at risk of encountering with wrong people along the way. While addressing the media at State Lodge in Nakasero, Mrs. Museveni said denying children enough sleep negatively impacts on their mental, physical and spiritual health.
Schools open for second term on 9th May 2022 for learners in pre-primary, primary and secondary levels. According to the Ministry of Education and Sports, some schools closed earlier before completion of the 14 weeks of the school calendar, which will affect the learners catch up with the school curriculum.
This is disadvantaging the learners concerned, since they won't be able to cover the required curriculum content. So I hope that the schools that closed before time at least made some arrangements for the children to finish their work that they were supposed to finish in the 14 weeks.
As schools prepare to start, Ministry of Education and Sports cites a problem of schools hiking fees in the disguise of costs of requirements going up. The ministry says, despite giving guidelines and issuing circulars, the culture of setting high fees by schools has not changed. The Ministry of Education and Sports is to start consultations on the statutory instrument for regulating fees they have drafted, and if the processes of government are done, this document will be able to give guidelines that must be followed by school heads.
That in this season, people should not be doing infrastructure development, for instance, in schools, or buying equipment that is expensive, or transport, or that would require schools to hike the school fees.
The Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, has also expressed concern over the time schools release children after classes, emphasizing that day schools have kept learners beyond 8 p.m. and children are picked at 4:30 a.m. and dropped at school before 7 a.m. She has tasked the Education Policy Review Commission to critically study this matter and see what further policy interventions government needs to make in this regard.
Putting them at risk for sending them home late, and we expect them at school early, and it's dangerous for these children. I want to appeal to local governments, to head teachers, and to parents to really look into this matter to ensure that children are not on the road after 5.
On the seed secondary schools constructed in different sub-counties across the country, Janet emphasized that they are day schools and there are no dormitories, so parents should take responsibility to accommodate and feed their children. She also urged them to monitor and have interest in these government projects.
Fencing of these schools and to plant trees, and we will follow up and hold competitions for schools to see which schools are really now doing what the ministry guides them to do. Because we don't want animals coming into the school compounds to feed and to run around when schools are going on. We want hedges around schools.
Meanwhile, on the issue of schools that want to increase school fees, the minister has advised them to follow the guideline of applying to the permanent secretary of the ministry and present their reasons for the increase. I'm Nafka Farida and Abdul Nasil Wama in Kampala.
Members of Parliament on the Budget Committee have rejected a proposal to provide funding to Uganda Police Force to establish stations at sub-counties to protect funds disbursed for the Parish Development Model (PDM). The MPs say priority should be on rehabilitating police stations at the district level than sub-counties. We have more in this report.
A similar project from Nakasongola.
While presenting budget estimates for the Ministry of Defence and Internal Affairs for financial year 2022-2023, Defence Committee Chairperson Rosemary Nyachikongoro reveals that Uganda Police Force has proposed budget allocation of shillings 865.8 billion for the next financial year.
Age analysis equipment to address age analysis cases from NIRA. They need 2 billion.
Accordingly, Rosemary cites that Uganda Police Force has a shortfall of 3 billion in its 7.5 billion budget for construction of 30 model sub-county police stations. The intended police stations at various sub-counties are, to the irritation of some legislators, to provide, among others, protection of the funds for the government program through parish development model.
Remember, there are sub-counties that are huge and quite far away from the districts, and they are insecure. So in order to beef up the security of the people and property, we need to construct sub-county police stations, much as they are beginning with 30 in the whole country. This is going to be a model to show that, yes, they can manage. And two, when you look at the investment that the country is going to put into the parish development model, each sub-county may be having like 6 or 10 parishes.
Benefit the country, what informed your decision? Do you have reports, statistics, that at every sub-county, the police stations we have at the district level cannot serve up the sub-county level? So we need statistics. And which criteria are you going to use to select the 30 sub-counties as model sub-counties?
The members of Parliament sitting on the Budget Committee advised that priority be given to police stations at district levels than sub-counties.
Have you looked at the police headquarters of Mubende? Before you even go to a sub-county, have you worked on a police headquarters of Shema or Sembabuli?
That is plausible. Before you go to sub-counties and you pick out parish model, don't spread yourself on things.
Okay.
Shillings 24.3 billion has been provided for construction of police stations, mechanical workshops and lecture theatres. Out of the required shillings 49.2 billion, which leaves a shortfall of shillings 24.9 billion. The Defence Committee observed in its report that the creation of new administration units presents the need for more police stations and police posts.
Members, this is a critical position. We need to support Ministry of Internal Affairs. Number two, operationalization of the narcotic and psychotropic substances. Parliament passed this bill, act. It has never been operationalized.
Daniel Mugoya, Gloria Gwitabinji, UBC News.
The Inspectorate of Government has handed over 2 trucks to the Ministry of Health, having been impounded following the arrest of 2 drivers who allegedly misused the vehicles meant for COVID-19 response. The Inspectorate of Government affirms that the arrests were only possible due to vigilance of the public in fighting corruption. They urge the public to come up and report cases of public property abuse since they have got protection under the Whistleblowers Act 2010.
James Tukahira, a transport officer at the Ministry of Health, is alleged to have misused the ministry's motor vehicles registration number UG6495M Hino box body and UG6646M Tata lorry that were meant for the support of COVID-19 response.
We have this case of Mr. James Tukahira, Senior Assistant Secretary, Stock Transport Officer, Ministry of Health again, found in abuse of public property, misuse of government vehicles meant for COVID-19 pandemic activities for carrying out his personal construction works. The message from the Inspectorate of Government to the public: the Inspectorate of Government would therefore wish to thank the whistleblowers for their vigilance in reporting the abuse of government properties. Such whistleblowers should be rewarded for taking a step forward to report such cases.
The trucks were found to be ferrying building materials, including iron bars, cement, nails, among others.
As a ministry, ours is on to pledge that we are going to strengthen the internal controls to ensure that such kind of misdeeds, do not happen. But of course, as you know, I normally hear the police saying that we cannot be everywhere. Also, as an institution, we are a broad sector as a ministry. We have, our presence virtually everywhere in the entire country. So, apart from, helping people to appreciate on the right thing to do, we cannot enforce on every aspect.
James Tukahirwa was arraigned before the Leadership Court Tribunal to answer charges of abuse of public property, contrary to Section 12B of the Leadership Code Act 2002.
To boost the Inspectorate efforts in this fight, the public is hereby called upon to report government officials who misuse public properties, motor vehicles, to the Inspectorate of Government for investigations.
The Inspectorate of Government commended vigilant members of the public for owning the war against corruption and reporting cases of abuse of government programs.
The strongest is the one who comes out and say, "I'm sorry I did this." You get me? And that's it. That's all I can say.
Were you aware that you were doing something?
No, because it was a welfare policy in the ministry to help staff. But as it came out, when they said, "Oh, you are doing wrong," I said, "I'm sorry."
This is the third incident where the Inspectorate of Government has handled cases regarding the misuse and abuse of public property. Sudat Kaye, UBC News.
20 minutes after 8 in the studios of UBC TV. We'll now be taking a very short break, but we'll be returning with much more.
Pay for your dream phone, Mpola. Get your dream phone today for as low as 1,400 Uganda shillings with free data for a year and pay slowly. All phones come with daily 50 MBs for 12 months. Repayment period is 1 year. Available at MTN service centers and M-Kopa shops.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Beat the back-to-school hustle today. Pay school fees conveniently using Airtel Money. Dial *185#. Select option 6, school fees.
Select to pay using Bridge Schools, School Pay or Peg Pay.
Select option 1, pay fees. Enter student number. Enter the amount. Enter the PIN number to complete payment. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
In preparation for the parliamentary and local government councils by-elections in Omoro County, Omoro District, the Electoral Commission will conduct a display of the National Voters Register for Omoro County constituency. The public display of the Voters Register will be conducted at each polling station within Omoro County from Monday the 25th of April to 4th of May 2022, starting at 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. on each of the appointed dates, including weekends. The purpose of the display exercise is to enable voters to check for the correctness of their particulars, to confirm that photographs appear against correct particulars, to report to the display officer the following categories of persons: those who have died, the non-citizens, if any, those who are under 18 years of age, if any, and those who belong to another parish. Please note that there will also be a display of lists of persons recommended for deletion from the voters register for a period of 6 days from the 5th of May to the 10th of May 2022. The purpose of this supplementary display is to enable any person who may have been wrongly recommended for deletion to raise an objection to the parish tribunal. The parish or ward tribunal may reinstate the person if convinced of the genuineness of an objection.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcome back from that break, and this is News Tonight here on UBC TV, and a warm welcome to those of you just joining us. Moving on now, the newly amended and passed Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill 2021 could harmonize operations of the fisheries sector in Uganda. Minister of State for Fisheries, Helen Adoa, wants the fisheries community to embrace new legal provisions for harmony to prevail in the sector. Her remarks come shortly after the new bill was successfully debated and passed by Parliament on Tuesday evening. Henry Okrut gives us more.
The Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill 2021 had a record of 109 amendments.
These were some of the last statements made on Tuesday night. The debate and passing by the Ugandan Parliament of the Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill of 2021 was a culmination of a day-long engagement.
And if we do well, Honorable Speaker, if we do very well with this bill and we implement what we are going to agree, I can tell you we are going to surpass coffee.
It resulted from a report by the Parliamentary Committee of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries.
The committee notes that after the presidential directive, no efforts were made to legalize the FPU. Its establishment is not supported by law.
Top among the contentious clauses in the bill was the withdrawal of the army from the lakes, fishmonger licensing, landing site management, among others.
Because as per now, as if there has not been any regulation that whoever would come as an enforcer, as a regulator, you would really not know.
The very, very biggest achievement that I believe if the president assents to the bill is the removal of the military.
When all these were harmonized, the bill was passed into law.
And what was important was to capture the fisheries products, because fish products were not captured in the old bill, and they are now key. Then also the aspect of aquaculture was not considered to be a serious matter.
Helen Adoa, who is one of the brains behind the bill, is optimistic that there will be harmony in the fisheries sector.
And I am happy this bill has been passed at the right time when we are now undertaking parish development model, which is going to be key, and the majority of the youth are going to leave the centers. They will relocate to the wetlands and to particular places where they are going to concentrate on fish farming.
Also of importance was the licensing of fishmonger traders, which the House extensively debated and agreed.
We have, of course, said in the bill that you must register You must be licensed, and you must be, the place must be clean and gazetted for you to catch the fish in it.
The passing of this bill is a relief to legislators representing fishing constituencies.
It is a gold mine. It will enhance the financial aspects of the country.
Before, fishing was just like a game, but now it is a source of income. It is a source of employment where a majority depend on it for an income.
At a certain time point, maybe if there is anything that we didn't look at so well, we can do an amendment. But for now, I believe it is a good law for our country.
It now awaits an endorsement from the head of state, Henry Okurut, UBC.
Clause 6. Chair, Clause 6.
A Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development has issued stringent physical and operational guidelines to the petroleum industry, especially fuel stations in the country, as a move to regulate and streamline the sector. While addressing the media Wednesday afternoon at Uganda Media Center here in Kampala, the Lands Minister Judith Nabakova reiterated that the continued construction and unregulated operation of fuel stations, especially in urban centers, risks lives and property worth billions of shillings.
In urban centers, the congestion of fuel stations is now alarming.
There is a growing concern over the increasing number of fuel stations, particularly in urban areas, more so in Greater Kampala metropolitan area.
This, according to government, puts the country at total risk.
In some areas, there are over 10 fuel stations within a distance of a kilometer. By any standards, 10 fuel stations in 1 kilometer, they are too many. These raise health, environmental, and safety concerns and results into some form of spatial nuisance. Some of the fuel stations are located in congested commercial and residential areas, and to make matters worse, some have established a total disregard of existing laws and also land use framework.
According to the Minister in charge of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Judith Nabakova, the practice has been facilitated by the uncoordinated and poor implementation of the National Physical Planning Act and other statutory tools.
Against the above stated background, the National Physical Planning Board, together with the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, came up with the physical planning conditions for locations of fuel stations, Regulations 2022, which are being launched today.
To enforce adherence, the National Physical Planning Board has now taken up steps to regulate the petroleum sector.
A person shall not commence a building operation for construction of a fuel station without a building permit issued in accordance with Section 36 of the Building Control Act.
The do's and don'ts of the sector will range from acquisition of licenses to the construction itself.
A fuel station shall not be located less than 200 meters from facilities such as schools, places of worship, a public library, auditorium, hospital, markets, and public playground.
Failure to comply with these and other regulations, penalties ranging from fines to imprisonment or both have also been put in place.
It should be noted that a person who contravenes these regulations commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine of 960,000 Ugandan shillings, or imprisonment up to a maximum of 2 years.
The two were addressing media in Kampala this Wednesday. Robert Onyango, UBC News.
48.
To Pallisa now, where Pallisa members of parliament have faulted Ministry of Works for continuously paying a deaf ear towards their request to repair all bridges in the district. The woman member of parliament, Kevin Kala Ojinga, during plenary sitting, informed the House that apparently all connection bridges in Pallisa district have been washed away following the recent heavy downpour that lasted for over 3 days. Now, the connection bridges that were washed away last week in Pallisa include Adul Chekura, Kaboloi Agule and Akisim Kameke that have since made movement and reopening of schools a nightmare.
Chair, because I've not done that, Thursday, 28th, we had heavy downpour in this issue on the floor of Parliament. It was last year again, around October. I raised the same issue because normally we have heavy rains in March, April, and October and November. But since then, the ministry just sent technocrats to assess the situation. After assessing the situation, that was it. It has never been worked on. This particular bridge was built in 1960, even before I was born. Children going to pass when they are going to school. Where are the pregnant women going to pass when they are going to access the district hospital? Right Honorable. My question is, for a long time, Pallisa has been ignored in every aspect of development in this country. Where does Pallisa belong, Right Honorable?
So the place is cut off because you cannot drive through. Border borders only are able to put some logs. To reach that point, the bridge is isolated.
She has talked of the bridges, but she's saying the bridges are very old, as if they were not washed away just of recent. So it is work that has taken time without being attended to. I'm going to inform the protocol Minister of Works and Minister for Disaster to come and work together to see that the roads and the bridges are put back, because it is an old bridge. It was not washed away of recent, which means people have been using that bridge, but it was washed away of recent.
Engage with them, send a team, visit to the ground, verify, and come up with solutions. Not everything will be put
just the way the Honorable has mentioned.
Issue of broken bridges in Pallisa district. Now, the ICT sector in Uganda this ending financial year projected a 7% growth with the laying of 1,000 internet fibers and Wi-Fi internet networks stretching over 4,717 kilometers across the country. The resource allocation investment of 220 billion Ugandan shillings in the financial year ending attracted 1 million job opportunities to the sector. The lucrative strides in the sector pushed government to play a key role in shaping the country's technological ecosystem to enable public service and private businesses thrive together. Mark Arnold Wadulo reports.
Ending 2021-22, Parliament allocated 220 billion shillings to the ICT sector through NDP3's digital transformation program, with the increasing demand of digitalizing the country to match international standards as reflected in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Government, under the Rural Communications Infrastructure Project in March 2022, wrapped up installations of over 1,000 internet fiber and Wi-Fi internet networks, covering 4,717 kilometers across the country.
It takes a lot of planning, designing, coming up with the right routes to take, what technologies to use. So it takes a bit of a while to get such infrastructure up and going. It took us almost a whole year designing this.
However, one would ask, why then has the popular MyUG hotspots in Entebbe and Kampala remained unreliable for most of the 2022 financial year?
I think there was a problem. The hotspots were controlled by some private company, because in the beginning we didn't have the backbone. The backbone was which we were using was from a telecom company, but now we have our own backbone. So we want government to take over these hotspots, and so that's why there was a problem.
The backbone infrastructure has been set up primarily to enable government deliver effective service delivery.
We are now working on the phase 5 of the national backbone and the last mile, so that the whole country can be covered.
The services that the government is offering manually can be offered digitally. Health service, if you want to probably access a medical center, your records shall be available for you, or they'll be available at the health service. All the records of the patient can be accessed. Registration of persons, that's with the office of NERA. You can register for your national ID faster. Passport, driving license, I believe right now the driving license process is much faster, and that's because of that last mile connectivity. We're taken to Jinja, we've taken to Mbarara. You can even apply for your passport in Mbarara. You don't have to come to Kampala.
Besides public service, government has also committed to leverage business process outsourcing as a strategy to create employment for the thousands of ICT graduates.
But you find that in countries where BPO has thrived, that is India, Malaysia, Sri Lanka and so many others, government takes the lead in directing business process outsourcing. So the ministry has come out to take the lead in this. By taking the lead, we have to set an environment that is favorable for the growth of business process outsourcing. And what does this mean? That we have to have guidelines for operation, we have to have laws, we have to look at the existing laws.
The ICT sector calls for more skilling if both public service and private sector are seeking to attain faster adoption levels.
We need to ensure that Ugandans are also able to do this on our own without having to call in different people all the time. For example, at some time we should reach a point where we are not manufacturers of this equipment, but we should reach a point where we just buy the equipment and we can implement it on our own, and we've gotten closer to that.
In the background, government is also lobbying for ways to tax the digital economy, which may include the resumption of Facebook's smooth running.
And I would like to assure my brother that we are finalizing negotiations concerning Facebook so that it can come to air.
As of 2022, 700,000 Ugandans now have access to 3G services on both feature and smartphones. But this network cannot sustain government's intended usability.
And we are also trying to see those people who can't afford the required gadgets. UCC has now started some program. We even buy phones to people who think need internet, and so that they can access it. Because we have seen that the more you consume internet, the cheaper it becomes.
In a nutshell, the ICT sector has grown 19.7% on average each year since 2013. The improved legal, technical and regulatory environment is encouraging a growing number of Ugandans to embrace ICT and automate business services.
In its own right, ICT doesn't come cheap, especially when long-term infrastructure has to be set up and maintained. What now government is faced with is ensuring the utilization of this infrastructure and also ensuring that policy is implemented efficiently. Reporting for UBC News, Wadulo Markanold in Kampala.
Thanks, Mark, for that report. And of course, in that story, we had something to do with Facebook. And government has maintained that the ban on Facebook was necessary after it was established that the service provider was overstepping her mandate and infringing on Uganda's sovereign rights. A State Minister for National Guidance, Godfrey Kabyanga, categorically states that the reopening of the Facebook app will come with new and clear guidelines, although he does not divulge further. Now, this statement comes at the heels of a possible lift on the ban on Facebook as negotiations to rekindle the relationship climax.
Even as negotiations to reinstate Facebook in Uganda are ongoing, Ugandans should continue abstaining from using the platform because it is still illegal within Uganda's territories.
Now, a government entity can't run Facebook because it is closed legally. So that one is not acceptable. It can't. It cannot. Because how do you access Facebook? It is officially closed. If there is any law which can impose those penalties, then it will be there.
According to the Ministry of Information and National Guidance, the ban on the Facebook social media platform was long overdue.
Some few issues which didn't go right between us and between government and Facebook, and the regulator, who is the UCC, was also not happy. We continued pointing out. At one time, even Facebook closed the accounts, of government. So
now, after a 2-year abstinence from the use of Facebook in Uganda, government says negotiations have been ongoing to reinstate the platform in the country.
And even right now, negotiations are still going on. Obviously, our regulator, Uganda Communications Commission, is leading the negotiations on behalf of our ministry and the government of Uganda.
Even then, State Minister for National Guidance, Godfrey Kabyanga, says the issue of compensating Ugandans who claim to have lost business occasioned by the ban on Facebook does not hold water. Minister Kabyanga categorically states such individuals ought to have adjusted to use other social media platforms.
I think there are about 15 or something, but Facebook is just one of them. It carries the highest population subscribers, but still there are many. So if you can go to those ones, you can get the same results.
Meanwhile, government has advised media practitioners to reinstate their professional associations and labor to nurture them to last.
You, the journalists, to form a body, one big body that can speak for you. And then the broadcasters should also have another body. One, if someone has worked for you, pay him. If you can't pay him, then you say, look, I can't manage. You lay off workers and probably even close the TV station. Why should you masquerade as being in the TV world when you are not even able to pay workers? That one is unacceptable.
On Tuesday, Uganda, like elsewhere in the world, held celebrations to mark the World Press Freedom Day under the theme, Journalism Under Digital Siege. Dorcas Kimono, UBC News.
Be alert. Do not share your Airtel Money PIN number with anyone. Airtel Uganda employees will never ask for your Airtel Money PIN number on call, SMS, or by email. All SIM card registrations, SIM card verifications, or SIM swaps are done at clearly branded Airtel shops and not on phone. To report any fraudulent activity, please call 100 immediately. The official calling number for Airtel promotions is 0200 100 100. Stay alert on Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves. High-flying saves. Unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebration.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. he wouldn't stop fighting. He knew something had to change, and his vision was bigger than anyone could imagine. He made it possible to receive quality medical services anywhere in Uganda by simply using a phone.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you or call or SMS 162. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcome back. Now, UPDF's 4th Division Commander, Brigadier General Boni Bamwisechi, has tasked impending retirees under his division to take the documentation and sensitization exercise keenly and to deeply understand their benefits after retirement. He said this during the documentation exercise of 147 impending retirees under his division in Gulu City. General Bamwisechi also thanked them for their wholehearted efforts and contribution towards peace building in Uganda. Take a watch.
Go and make sure that we are with them. And let us remain united. Now let us remain na ile siasa nzuri ya UPDF. Because you are now our ambassadors. Mnapoenda huko, nyinyi ndio mtakuwa, don't feel shy. Muelezee kwamba tumekuja, tumeserve good government. Na good government yetu imetuchunga vizuri. Na saa hii tunarudi nyumbani. We must identify ourselves as very good Ugandans and very good brothers so that we live well. Ladies and gentlemen, we remain the same brothers. Tunaelewana wandugu? Yes. Same entity, same force, same work. Kama shida zimekuja wala zinakabiliana na nchi yetu, usikubali kukaa nyumbani. Kuja sema no to hell with anyone who mwenye anataka kusumbua nchi yangu. We will come. And then
Now, Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate the International Museums Day. Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Tom Butime, said the ministry is planning to build museums countrywide, as we hear in this report.
Uganda will join the rest of the world in commemorating the International Museums Day under the theme The Power of Museum in Conserving of Cultures.
To celebrate the International Museum Day on Wednesday, March this year. The aim of International Museum Day is to raise awareness of the fact that museums are important places for cultural exchange, enrichment of cultures, and development of mutual understanding, cooperation, peace among peoples.
While addressing journalists at the Uganda Media Center, the Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Tom Butime, stated that the event will take place from 12th to 18th of May at Uganda Museum.
Museums have the potential to create meaningful experiences for all peoples to achieve their social value.
The event will also see different Ugandan culture showcasing their traditional heritage, arts and customs from 12th of May before the climax on 18th.
Temporary exhibitions at Uganda Museum. All stakeholders and partners will be given a chance to exhibit their materials. The Uganda Museum will have a special display from the colonial times to date. The journey taken by Uganda Museum from 1908 to date.
The ministry is also planning to build different museums in cities and sensitize the public about the importance of museums.
Of course, we intend to develop other museums, especially in the new cities. That is Gulu, Arua, Mbale, Fort Portal, Mbarara. Masaka, and others.
Sada Mubale, UBC News, Kampala.
Ministry of Health has launched a campaign to amplify the critical state of survivors of sexual violence, especially teenage girls, to assess the necessary care needed to provide to the victims. The campaign, dubbed Every Hour Matters, has been launched at a 2-day workshop at Nile Resort Hotel, Namamve, Mukono District.
The teenage pregnancy rate in Uganda stands at 25%, far from the health sector's targets of 14% by 2020. However, the data still indicates that since March 2020, when COVID hit the world, an estimated 350,000 teenage pregnancies were reported during the school's closure. The deputy team leader of Uganda Youth and Adolescent Health Forum, Joyce Nakato, was speaking during the opening of the 2 days national level Every Hour Matters campaign orientation workshop at Nile Resort Hotel in Namamve.
We employ a lot of strategies and approaches to our work, among which is a partnership. We are close that we are working together with MEDS, together with the support of CDC, to ensure that we support the young girls in our grassroots communities. Today, as we conduct the national orientation workshop for the different stakeholders present, this is a moment for all of us to reflect upon SHR that the sexual gender-based violence with its related effects in our respective communities.
Mukono District. The program officer, Minister of Health, Juliet Cheptoris, appealed to security personnel, especially police, to be more vigilant with cases related to domestic violence and sexual abuse.
At community level is that when somebody experiences sexual gender-based violence or they are assaulted at community level, they only think about going to police to report the case. By the time they are referred to the facility, probably they would have missed the opportunity to access those other health services that have a time limit. One of them.
Sudat Kaye, Fred Kaswante, UBC News.
Our Ministry of Health has intensified measures aimed at increasing COVID-19 vaccinations countrywide. The current vaccination status shows that 58 districts, including the capital city Kampala, have full vaccination coverage of up to 49% respectively. Now, this was revealed by the Director Public Services at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Daniel Chabayinze, at a capacity building training organized by HEPS Uganda and partners at Imperial Royal Hotel here in Kampala.
Synopsis of COVID-19's current national vaccination status of May 2022, the Director Public Service at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Daniel Chabayinze, observed total progress of the virus vaccinations countrywide. According to Ministry of Health, 49% of the population has been fully vaccinated, translating the figure into over 10 million people out of the 22 million targeted people.
Our call now is to work with the media and civil society to increase demand generation and people to have perception that the disease is with us and the best time to protect ourselves is when the disease or we are out of a major crisis.
The Ministry of Health has also intensified strategies to increase vaccination coverage, especially to school-going children.
We are going to do massive vaccination, but we are going to use the schools as our focal point. So the secondary schools will be the focal point, and the proportion of people who are in that age category who are not in school, that category we estimate 6.6 million people to be vaccinated who are between age 17 and 12.
This was at a media capacity building convention on COVID-19 vaccination in Uganda by HEPS Uganda with the Consortium of Global Health Collaborative and partners held at Kampala Imperial Royal Hotel. The Executive Director HEPS Uganda, Kenneth Muhonge, expounds the narrative of Vaccine Advocacy Accelerator in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic and media.
This program is there to support government to ensure full vaccination, right from production, advocating for those TRIPS waivers to increase production through generic production. The supply chain, he has told you of the challenges they face once they take out these medicines from the cold chain or these vaccines. They require to be consumed within 30 days. So that calls for very explicit and well-coordinated mobilization and supply chain.
At the training, media tasked Ministry of Health to show transparency and accountability in the entire COVID-19 vaccination campaigns.
I think that the Ministry of Health has an obligation to account to the citizens where the money that we were given to them, what did it do? So issues of accountability are part of the story. There has been a lack of transparency and openness about expenditures during pandemics, during emergencies. Do we know, for example, the cars that were donated to government of Uganda during the COVID-19 pandemic, what they are doing, where are they now? Can we have a full accountability of the money that people individually got from their pockets to give to government? Where is that money? So whilst we appreciate that the government is in the effort of saving lives through vaccinations, we need to pay clear attention to accountability.
Out of the 44 million COVID-19 vaccines in circulation, government has procured only 3.5 million doses of vaccines, which means that 40.5 million doses are donations from partners and developed countries.
Today in history.
Soldiers of the King African's Rifle (KAR) launched a military operation to fight cattle rustlers in Karamoja. The operation was targeting cattle riders from the Turkana tribe. It was first by the armed forces under the Uganda government since 1894, when Uganda was declared a British colony.
Need to send money to a loved one but you don't have enough on your phone? Have you run out of fuel but you don't have enough money? Do you want to pay for yaka or water but have insufficient funds? Or do you want to shop but you don't have enough money? Don't worry, get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Sports news now, and Crested Cranes head coach George Lutalo has summoned a provisional squad of 47 players to prepare for the forthcoming 2022 Sekafa Women Championship that will serve as a precursor to the Total Energies Women Africa Cup of Nations. The squad summoned is composed of players featuring both in the domestic league, the FUFA Women Super League, and a legion of foreign-based players. Coach Lutalo indicated that the technical team has been following up on the players summoned and believes it is a good squad to perform. The team will enter residential camp on Saturday, the 7th of May, before the championship in Njeru between the 22nd of May and the 5th of June 2022.
The squad consists of two categories of players. Remember, we're having the Sekafa tournament first, and then we have the Alcon tournament. So the squad that I will read, it's not the final one. Still have space for other players who will excel, who will satisfy the technical team to have an opportunity of joining. If she performs well in the league as it is still moving on, the chances are there to be summoned. So this squad is not the final one. The squad is composed of 47 players, including the home-based players and the foreign-based players.
It's coming to 3 minutes after 9 in the studios of UBC TV. We've finally come to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for having kept us company on sign language. It has been Elizabeth Nakakoni, and I am Rukidi Edward Kiijanangoma, wishing you a blessed night. But up next here on UBC TV, it is Super Soul Sisters that will be followed later on at 10 by Behind the Headlines. Enjoy the shows.
Super Soul Sisters, yet another amazing episode, and I must say I am glad we are back to share and have a conversation, because my Super Soul Sisters